Senator Michael McDowell.
Well, I want to welcome the Minister here today and to thank the Senators for proposing this legislation for our consideration. I'm probably going to be in a speaking minority here today because I am opposed to the principle of this bill, and I'll explain why, if I may. I see that the ministers, that the Leader of the House intends proposing an amendment to postpone consideration, and so be it. But I think that the issues are important issues, and they need to be teased out. But I want to express some views of my own on this issue. I think that the whole question of the age of majority comes into question here. People under the age of 18 are not entitled to gamble, smoke, drink. They're not entitled to even buy vapes on the latest proposals. The proposals of the Citizens' Assembly apparently don't propose to allow them to smoke recreational drugs when they come into effect. They're not bound by contract. They are, for legal purposes and for the purpose of the criminal law, they are considered to be children. For asylum-seeking purposes, we talk about unaccompanied children coming to this country, 17 and 18-year-olds. They up to the age of 18, they are considered to be unaccompanied children. And the issue that arises for me, it's a much broader issue. It's that of considering whether we are guilty of kind of double standards when it comes to the whole question of the age of majority. If somebody is incapable of going into a pub or an off-licence and buying a can of beer because we regard them as vulnerable and as somebody who should not be permitted to do that, or to go into a shop and buy a lottery ticket, if somebody is regarded by law as belonging to that category, why is it that we say, well, their judgment in other respects as to who should be on the local council or the European Parliament is to be accorded the same status as anybody else's judgment? And it's part of a broader movement to sweep away the whole concept of childhood and protection of younger people. I'm in favour of protecting young people. I think they do deserve special status under our Intoxicating Liquor Act, or Drugs Act when they are amended, whether they can drive e-scooters and things like that. I do believe that they are entitled to protection. And I do believe that unaccompanied minors coming to this country seeking recognition as refugees are entitled to special consideration. But I don't accept that we could just simply dine a la carte at this distinction between childhood and majority, and say that for some purposes we accord full rights to an individual, but for other purposes we take them away. And I would also make a point that no matter what is said in favour of this legislation, local authority elections take place every 5 years, and European elections take place on the same time frame. And therefore it will be that even if this were to become the law, 80% of people would be unaffected by it, because they wouldn't be in the right time slot, so to speak, to be affected by the matter. So let's be clear about this. This is not all that has been claimed for it. 80% of younger people would never get to vote under the age of 18 in a local election or a European election if this were to take place. And Senator Byrne talks about the idea that people under the age of 18 should have been allowed to vote in the Brexit referendum, and says that it might have been the other way around. Well, maybe he's right. The result might have been different. But I don't think that's an argument for deciding that 14-year-olds shouldn't be allowed to vote, but 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds should. I mean, why say to a 15-year-old, suddenly something's going to happen at the age of 16, and you're going to be endowed with a much greater understanding of the political system or the needs of your society. So I stand against the degradation of the status of childhood. I don't believe that we can dine a la carte and say you can't buy a lottery ticket because you're too immature, but you can go out and determine who is to be making decisions in relation to your local authority's housing policy. I don't think that makes sense. I know I'm probably in a minority, and very few people, I'd say, would have the courage to stand up here and say what I'm saying. But let's remember that this legislation, it's probably going to be deferred because of the government amendment. But even then, even if it is deferred, it'll only affect, and even if it were carried into law, it would only affect, as I say, 20% of young people as a matter in the outcome. And therefore, I think I prefer. By the way, one last thing I should say: the Citizens' Assembly came up with the daft idea that presidents should be electable at the age of 21. The people took a look at that suggestion, and on the same day as they voted in favour of some other proposition, they by 75% said no to that. And gimmickry is in my view, a dangerous thing, and citizens' assemblies are not always as wise as sometimes they can be.
Thank you, Senator.